Now, if you're tuning in, then obviously you're a car audio fan, and there are few brands that take car audio as seriously as Pioneer Electronics. Why, you may ask? Well, for one, they've been around since the beginning of time, and man, do they have the resources to make sure that whatever system that you put into your vehicle using their gear is absolutely optimized. Today, we've got their product expert, Robert Money, joining us, and we're going to get a little bit underneath the veil when it comes to the quality and performance of Pioneer car audio gear. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about Pioneer, and it starts now. What's going on, guys, and welcome to another CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and we're talking about Pioneer in the car audio category. You know, Pioneer has such a rich history. Of course, we know them for their source units, but back in the day, man, I'll tell you, I remember a couple demo Pioneer trucks that were absolutely impressive. But one thing is for sure, if there's anything we've learned, is that the resources and people that they have at Pioneer to take car audio level to the next level over and over again over the years is nothing short of extraordinary. Robert, I'm happy to have you here today. We're going to have a unique discussion today, but why don't you give the folks tuning in a preview of what we're going to be talking about?
Hi, Ben. I'm pretty excited to be with you today, you guys especially, and the attendees at CMA. What I want to do with you today is a bit different. So, of course, we will talk a bit about product, but the theme of that recording is car audio. So why not look at what is car audio? So that is what I want to spend a bit of time with you today in a way to revisit what is really car audio and how Pioneer work with it in a way to do great deliveries for great products.
A very interesting conversation indeed. But first, an opportunity for our partner SiriusXM to remind you why it's always a great add-on sale. And when we come back, we've got Robert Money from Pioneer. Let's talk car audio.
Hi, Paul Truman here with SiriusXM. We reached out to some of our partners in the industry, and here's what they had to say.
I can't say more or enough about just what it means to have our unit working with SiriusXM. It's like we're there now.
The SiriusXM service is something consumers want, right? So it's Paul.
That allows a consumer to listen to either podcasts, entertainment, sports, all at their fingertips. It's all about engagement, and that's what SiriusXM provides.
SiriusXM is a huge component in a vehicle nowadays. Consumers expect that technology to be available both in our OEM system as well as the aftermarket upgrades that they're applying to their vehicle.
Alpine and SiriusXM, through our electronics, are able to offer the consumer on the aftermarket side SiriusXM 360L, which is an expanded platform for SiriusXM. And it's really been a beneficial relationship for us with SiriusXM.
As a dealer, just remember, we don't compete with anybody else. We are absolutely one of the best profitability accessories you can add to any head unit that is SiriusXM ready.
All right, welcome back to the show. As mentioned, we've got Robert Money joining us from Pioneer, and we're going to have a different conversation today. It's not going to be so much show and tell. Of course, we're going to talk about some cool products. However, I think what we want to talk about here is understanding some of the fundamentals that make car audio, well, car audio. Starting with the music, because what is car audio without the music? We love this gear simply because we want to hear music in our rides. So, Robert, let's have that conversation. What, in fact, is music? Or maybe more important, what's audio?
Okay, Ben, I'll unleash a bit the geek in me. So audio is basically sound. Sound is produced by air movement, basically. So if you look in what's happening in a recording studio, of course, we are doing recording now with computers and memories, but no matter what is the source, most of the time, not to say all the time, we're catching those air movement with a microphone. Basically, a microphone is capturing air movement by capturing the vibration. So the air will let vibrate a membrane, and that membrane is basically attached to an electrical component that is typically a coil, and that is what will generate the electrical pulse that will be recorded in a way to react to the different signal in matching the air movement, no matter if it's the frequencies or the amplitude of that airflow. The microphone will react to that, and that is music. It's kind of cold to say it this way, but this is what it is, and down the line it will transpire all the passion and all the things that will let us vibrate to the music.
Well, for those of us who might have skipped physics class, there it is in a nutshell. Music, nothing more than vibration through the air and capturing it in a membrane. Well, the most important takeaway from that, Robert, is what the next step is, because something unique to car audio is the environment. Of course, music can be heard in any environment, whether it's on your headphones or in your shower. But of course, here on CMA, we're talking about car audio specifically. So, what is the typical setup, or the what are we looking at as far as an audio chain when it comes to sound in a car?
Basically, Ben, you can have a shower if you're driving a convertible under the rain, so you can do it. By the way, so but going back to that thing, so yeah, in the car, basically, the typical audio chain will be a three basic elements. So we will have the source where you will play the music from the recording, no matter what's the type of the interface. So it can be CDs, it can be USB thumb drive, your smartphone, of course, and more popular these days, all the streaming services that we know. So for this, you need an audio receivers or audio video receivers that will be able to take part of that things in a way to do the rendering and send the information to external or built-in amplifiers into the car, and that will end it up with the audio chain that is a critical role for an or a key element in the audio chain, as if I can say it this way, to the speakers, because actually the speakers is doing the exact same thing as the microphone is doing within the recording studio, but on the opposite way. So it will take your electrical signal and convert it back to the air movement that we mentioned with a microphone. So it is critical for you to have a good quality speakers if you want to render the music the way it should, as the producer made it, as the artist made it when they were in the recording studio. Basically, the best speakers will be only one, but it's totally impossible to do that. As an example, big subwoofers that moves air will not be able to move as fast as a small tweeter because of all the masses that are different in the weight of those elements. So basically, what you need to have if you want to enjoy a good car audio or in-car entertainment will be basically three elements. So tweeter for your high frequencies, woofer mid-range, and last but not least, a good subwoofers to handle the bass.
Well, I can agree, Robert, that certainly not the last is the subwoofer, because I don't know, but I think that's maybe the most fun part of a car audio system. Okay, we've taken the time to kind of refresh everybody on the fundamentals, and that's really important because our next part is going to be talking about the first step towards building that complete system. And of course, the first part is going to start at the source, in this case, the source or the player.
Of course, it is important as any other part in the chain. So the source is basically one of the key element, because most of the time you will have it under your eyes, your hands, and you will have interaction. So that's maybe one of the reason why people are most of the time looking at those things, because this is where everything is happening in the car for the human interaction with the in-car entertainment. So basically you will be able, with that source, if it's good quality as our NEX model as an example, you will be able to integrate all the current smartphone integration with the key new technologies like CarPlay, wired or wireless CarPlay, Android Auto, here again, wired or wireless, the streaming from the different services, or for the audiophile in you, maybe a high-res quality of recording on a thumb drive because you don't want to rely on a smartphone. So it is really important here for you to maximize the way that you are dealing based on what you are expecting from your daily habit, or the way that you are using the infotainment system in your car when you're driving. So basically, you can go on the convenience side with streaming You can do Bluetooth streaming, which is by far the easiest way to do it, but not necessarily the best one if you look at audio quality. So if you want to improve your listening experience, then you need to move up to something which will use Wi-Fi, basically wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto. In this way, that you will be able to enjoy better audio, better rendering. And if you want to do even better than that, there's nothing better than good old copper. If you are in the audio industry since years, copper still rules. So good hardwire connection with USB, with the connection through the smartphone if you're using again CarPlay or Android Auto. This way you will improve the sound quality even better. So it's really important for you to take time to ask to the people on the sales floor when you're having interaction how good they are at the rendering, because there's different quality. So it's not because, as an example, you have CarPlay and streaming services with CarPlay with Apple Music that you are doing the right things in a way to do it. As an example, even if you're paying with high-res audio, what are you doing with your smartphone? Are you just basically connecting through Bluetooth? Are you using CarPlay or not? And are you using wireless CarPlay or wired CarPlay as an example? So these different scenarios will end up in different sound qualities, where Bluetooth will be the lowest quality, but the quickest way to do it, if we can say it this way, or where a wired connection will be the best one if you want to achieve the best quality out of it. And here again, you should download that music from Apple Music in a way to listen to the music on chip. So the music that will be registered into the smartphone memory. So you're listening to the smartphone memory and not the streaming services in real time. So here again, there's two end result depending of the communication tunnel that you're using. And you need to be careful. Small tips here for the people who enjoy the wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto. If you want to really enjoy a hardwired connectivity, so wired CarPlay in a way to improve the sound quality, it's not just by connecting the USB connection of the smartphone while you are in wireless CarPlay, as an example. It will just recharge the battery. So if you really want to enjoy the wired communication, you need to go into the smartphone setting and say for the specific device, as an example, DMH W3050NEX, you need to turn off the wireless CarPlay. So this way, the iPhone will directly communicate with the DMH unit with the USB cable and not still use the Wi-Fi, because it will not see it anymore. So that's the best way to deal with smartphone world if you want to enjoy the best sound quality you can achieve with those things.
You know, Robert, I got a comment. What you said there was very informative and probably a conversation that needs to be had more often, especially between retailers and consumers. You know, sometimes convenience gets into the way of quality, and there's always going to be that balancing act. At the end of the day, you know, if you want the best sound because of the investment you put into your car, opt for the best connection. That's really what I would have to say about that. But hey, we are living in a world of convenience where the wireless, you know, theme is definitely going to be strong. Well, at least we have that cleared up. All right, let's talk about the next step in our building of a system. We've talked about source. Let's talk about amplifiers, because for me, that is a huge game changer. You know, of course, speakers, you do feel a difference, you know, when changing them. But the amplifiers, the moment a customer actually hears a properly amplified system, that's when I feel the wow factor comes in.
The wow factor, you just said it. Actually, an amplifiers bring liveliness to the sound system. The best way that I found over the years to compare that is to have an excellent car that is handling the road like magic, but not having the right engine in the car in a way to have fun interaction when you're pushing on the gas pedal with dynamism and those things. So that is basically what is the job for an amplifier in the cardio system. Of course, it will play it louder, but that's not the point. The real point of an amplifier is to bring all the required control you need to have when you push that air piston, which is the speakers, and when you need to take it back and a way to control it. So you need to keep control on that speaker all the time, pushing in and out. And you need also to have something that will react in a wing, so like crazy fast type of reaction. And for this, there's no better comparison than horsepower. Without horsepower or watts, you will not be able to extract all the details and all the dynamism on the music. And to create this, the only way to do that is to have external amplifiers. And I think the best way to explain it to you will be to show you one or two example with product camera in a way to describe how we are doing the deliveries on a better sound with amplifiers and what's the technologies behind those amplifiers. So let's take a look at the product camera. Okay, so what we see here is a GMDX874. This is the 4 times 100 watts Hermes amplifiers from Pioneer. This is a high-res certified amplifiers. As you can see, this is way bigger than what a amplifier can be in a AV receivers or audio receivers. But actually, if you look inside that piece, there's a lot of components. So it's totally impossible for us to integrate all those great electronics components into a small AV receivers and keep all the audiophile quality in the grade. So you look here with the power supply section that will be able to handle all the current requirements that we need in a way to perform the stability filtration in a way to have a power supply that is noiseless, and that will result in higher quality of sound. So when we're talking about signal to noise ratio, total harmonic distortion, everything's rely from the power supply because that is the foundation of the amplifiers. And here, if you look at this section here, that is the preamp stage for the 4-channel. So basically the low-level signal that coming out from the audio receivers or the audio video receivers, and that will feed all the power amp section for the 4 times 100 watts of output. So that is the GMDX 874. This is a 4 times 100 watts or 300 watts when you're doing bridge mode for 2-channel. This is the high-res certification. This is a high-res certified amplifiers. If we're moving to something smaller, but still excellent on the deliveries, this will be the GMD 10004. Actually, the 10004 can be a great match if you have a Max series speakers or A plus speakers as an example, where the 874 will be a good match for TSD or TSZ. So let's look at the little beast here, because that is really interesting to see how fully packed that piece is. So as you can see, it's pretty small. In fact, just to give you an example, this is how small the GMD 10004 is. But look at the power supply section. Look at the coil and how the circuit board is fully packed of technologies. So it's not because it's small that is less in quality. In fact, if you look at everything that we squeezed inside of that chassis, that piece is a pure marvel for quality and audio. And this is a 4 times 45 watts. So pretty amazing if you consider that size. So amplifiers, yes, it's power, but more importantly, it's something that will bring music to life. That's what you should remember. So that was the amplifier section. For the next chapter or the next section, Ben, if you're comfortable with it, I would like to play a little game or a quiz game that I call Pioneer Acoustic Challenge, if you want to take it for sure. Are you interested in?
I don't know, Robert. You have me a little bit nervous, but I'll tell you what, I'll play along. Let's see what this acoustic challenge is all about.
Okay, you should not be afraid, Ben. That is really a basic challenge. What I want to ask you is to look at two different response chart from speaker A versus speaker B, and I want you to tell me which one you prefer or which one will be the best pick for you in your car based on all the knowledge you have. So, what will be better for you, speaker A or speaker B? So I'll give you time to look at it again in a way to have you and the audience look at it. Which one is better, speaker A or speaker B?
So, for the record, guys, this is the first time anybody's ever challenged me on my own show. So, I'll play along. If I look at speaker A and I look at the speaker B charts, it would seem that the lower end is very similar. So I'm not sure there's much difference there. However, there seems to be a clear advantage on the A speaker because of the linear performance towards the higher frequencies. You'll see it kind of stays up, where it's supposed to go, whereas the B speaker kind of goes up and down and kind of falls off even. So my answer, Robert, I think speaker A is a better performing speaker. Hope I said the right answer.
In fact, Ben, there's no right or wrong answers in that. Both speakers are good because both speakers are exactly the same speakers. The only difference is the A versus B is one is on axis, so directly in front of your eyes or ears, and the other one is 45 degrees out of axis. So the reason why I cheat you a bit on that is because in the car application, it's totally impossible for us to have the sweet spot as we have, as an example, within the home stereo system we have in a studio room or the home theater system, as an example. In a car, this is pretty challenging environment where the door panel is at different distance, different angle versus the left from the right or the rear from the front. So it's totally impossible for us to have a speakers that will have the exact same angle from our listening position in the car. So no matter the speakers that you will select, those speakers will have different timbre, different acoustic characteristic. So it's really important for you to select a good sound quality speakers, but more importantly, have a speakers that will generate similar audio characteristic, no matter if you're in front or on axis or out of axis. So basically, the best pick for you will be to have the speakers that will show characteristics that are close to each other from those different axis scenarios you may have. So as you may understand from that, this will minimize the needs for you to do a band-aid solution that I'm calling it with doing EQ calibration independently from left to right because the audio output is different. So it's better for you to work at the foundation stage, which is the speaker output directly.
Well, it's good to know that I do happen to know a thing or two about speakers. But yes, in fact, that makes a lot of sense. And I was kind of curious about that because they're not that far off. But just to show, like Robert had said, there is a huge difference when it comes to an off-axis performance. And just summarizing what Robert said right there, if you choose the right speaker that has the least amount of shift of performance between an on-axis and an off-axis, well, you're much better off because having to fix it later on with equalization or whatnot is certainly a chore that most of us don't want to get into if we can. All right. Let's take, for example, one of the very, very popular series that just came out from Pioneer. It's called the A series. And I think you have one here, Robert, that we can dive a little bit deeper into.
Yeah, sure. So let me give you an example with that A Max series, which is the TSA 653 FHO, which is the coax speakers. So basically, if you are installing it in the door, you will not have it this way. So it will be more something like that. So for this, you will have a different audio characteristic. So the higher frequencies that coming out from the tweeter actually in front will be most of the time more directional. So you will have more output if you are in line with the tweeter than if you are off axis like this. So that's the main reason why we have in the design that little plastic piece in as a centerpiece of the tweeter. And if you look at it with the reflection, you still see the dome in the center of that plastic piece. So basically, this is a diffuser that will reduce the output on axis in a way to create some kind of obstacle for that direct path, in a way to achieve a scenario where the off axis and the on axis will be closer to each other, resulting in a speakers that will give you pretty similar audio characteristics. So no matter if you are like this or like that. So that is a car specific speaker design. So let me show you the end result with a graphics where we are comparing the TSA 1601C, which is the A plus component speakers, with direct competition with competitors A or B on the other side of the slide. So if you look at this chart, basically you have different output from low end to higher frequencies at different angles. So from zeros to different angle of axis. As you can see on the Pioneer output, we're achieving a pretty consistent higher frequencies, no matter if you're moving from on axis to off axis, where you see bigger depth and into the output as close to 4 kilohertz most of the time, basically, which is close to the crossover point for most of these guys, and where the end result will be a totally different output from listening to the speaker installed in your left door, as an example, and from the speakers installed from the right door. So basically, if you are doing listening session from those speakers, they will sound okay, but they will sound totally different from left to right, versus the Pioneer speakers will have audio characteristic that will be pretty similar.
Wow, Robert, I got to thank you for taking the time to explain all this in depth. It's something that we certainly all need to understand if you're a technician or an enthusiast within this realm. But I got to ask, what is the secret sauce? What is Pioneer doing to make sure that these speakers are optimized across the range when it comes to these kind of things? And what is the procedure? What is again, the secret sauce that Pioneer has when it comes to speakers?
Pretty good question, Ben. In fact, everything starts with one key thing. We're doing lots of surveys to the customers pool, no matter if it's Pioneer customers or not, but we want to have direct feedback from the people who will use those products. So no matter the product that you're designing, if the product is great, but nobody don't want it, it will be a total no-go. So it's really important to do design that you know that people will like to listen to it. So the A series is a great example of that. So where we took time to do lots of surveys, doing A/B comparison based on what customers like or don't like, in a way to create the new generation of the TSA speakers. So once it's done, we're going into the R&D department to do research and development with computer-aided software type of design. So we're doing simulation as most people do, but once this step is done, we're not directly going into mass production. We're doing a small quantity of production to create different prototypes in a way to validate those simulations. So what will be the end result? And we're testing those speakers into anechoic chambers, but we're doing also the same into real car scenarios, because we will not listen to those speakers into the anechoic chambers. So basically, the anechoic chambers is really there to validate that the speakers is doing the rendering that we want to, based on the audio characteristic of the curve and those things. But even if those speakers are great into the anechoic chambers, we need to validate what will be the real life end result, which is the most important part of it, because that will be the end result that you will listen to into your car. So we're doing different listening session in different car. So at the same time, we will also do measurement for different car in a way to validate that those great speaker are also easy to install in the car. That is part of the experience. So if you're not able to install the speakers, or it's a nightmare to install the speakers in the car, that is actually a bad start. So that is part of the process as well. And once it's validate and install, and where we are also creating our multi-fit adapters, like this is part of the design of those speakers, because we make the life easier for the installation, but we're also creating a better foundation in a way to extract the best sound quality from the speakers in the car. And with the listening experience, we are also validating that those speakers will create the improvement that we're targeting. What is the bass output? Is it round enough? Is it tight enough? Is it dynamic? What's the details output? Are we keeping all the details in the refinement that we're looking at without being harsh? So this is part of all the process in a way to give you the best speaker experience, and that is in-car entertainment for Pioneer. So no matter if it's a Z series top of the line audiophile or the A series more affordable experience, we will do the deliveries of all this R&D process, no matter if it's a series or a Z series speakers.
Wow, what a session with Robert Money from Pioneer Electronics. A lot of the times we get to talk about cool products, but it's great to see when companies and brands take the time to really explain some of the processes involved in coming up with specific equipment just to reproduce music in our audio environment, in this case being the car. If you want more information on any of the items or products covered on today's show, make sure you hit up the official Pioneer website. And my takeaway from this is simple. Pioneer's come on many times talking about whether it's their new A series amps or their Pro Line speakers and subs. One thing remains true, and there are very few companies within our industry that not only have the history and pedigree, but also the scientific resources to really back up their claims. This is a brand that takes performance very seriously because for two reasons. Number one, let's not forget the OEM implication that Pioneer has as a part of their daily activities, creating, OEM vehicle specific type product, but more so the constant pursuit of excellence when it comes to reproducing music in a car environment. They've taken on everything into consideration, from on and off axis performance to how they build their amplifiers to, of course, their source units. At the end of the day, Pioneer for me continues to be one of those solid brands that you can rely on for optimum sound at great value. That's it for the CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.